Hey everyone, it's Matt again, and I thought I would get another McCartney album review in. So, last one that I put up here about half an hour ago was Venus and Mars. You can watch that if you're so inclined. And so we move on, and yes, I did it. I suffered for you, so you don't have to. I just played this, which, as you can tell, probably gives you a good indication of the way this review is going to go. This is the 1976 album that came out after Venus and Mars. This is Wings at the Speed of Sound. Came out on March 25th of 76, so I would have been in 6th grade, toward the end of 6th grade there, and I would have been 12 years old. I remember this well. It was all over the radio. Big hit album, #1 in the US, #2 in the UK. Had a #1 single with Silly Love Songs. We'll get to that in a little bit. This was sort of the height of popularity for Paul McCartney and Wings. Uh, This was when they did their 76 World Tour of America, which I sadly didn't get to see. It actually opened in Fort Worth, Texas, where I grew up, but I didn't get to see them till years later, unfortunately. Um, yeah, this is, well, first of all, let's talk about the cover. That's arguably the worst cover of any solo McCartney album, I would say. A contender, perhaps, maybe this. But this is about as dull as it gets. Inside, and this is the archive edition. Got some pictures of the band, which are okay there. Um, this is one of the very few. Back in the day, I was buying Beatles and all the solo Beatles albums. This is one of the very few Beatles solo albums that I never got around to picking up in the 70s, uh, just because I thought it would not be very good, and turns out it's actually not. But I didn't ever get a copy. I heard it because it was all over the radio, and I had some friends who had it, so I heard it way back when. But I didn't actually get a copy of this until the archive came out, what, about 3 or 4 years ago. So there's the back cover, which is a little bit better than the front. Pretty much anything would be. I don't know if they're trying to do sort of a Hard Day's Night montage or something there, or kind of reminds me of this in a way. I'm sure this probably isn't what they were thinking about. By the way, this is a great album, and it's a lot better album than this. So I would suggest, if you don't have this, rush out and buy it, because everyone should have that. So yeah, big hit album. He followed this up. Band on the Run was a huge hit. Venus and Mars was a huge hit. So he was riding high, popularity wise and hit wise and radio play wise. And the big tour, the first time a Beatle had toured, with the exception of George Harrison, since the Beatle days. And the tour was a big, huge success, of course. And it's a shame that he didn't put out a stronger album. Not that it mattered, I guess, sales wise, because he sold millions of copies and topped the charts. But shame he didn't put out something a little bit stronger than this, because maybe that would have helped him, his critical standing or something. But, or if nothing else, it would have been good to have a good album instead of this thing. So this is also the height of the time when Paul's into the Wings as a group, and it's democratic stuff. So everybody in the band gets at least one lead vocal, and there's I think 3 songs that are written by non-Paul written songs written by Henry McCullough and Danny Lane, which I kind of talked about in the Venus and Mars review. A couple of those songs that Danny sings or Henry McCullough does on those albums are all right. Here, they're not very good. And like I said, I'm sure that Henry and Danny are great guys and all that, but it would have been better if Paul would have just filled this with Paul songs and let Danny Lane and Henry McCullough release solo albums if they wanted that kind of outlet to release solo albums that no one would pay attention to or buy, because nobody buys a Wings album to hear anything other than Paul McCartney, you know. But then again, with the quality of McCartney songs on this album, maybe it's not so bad that he lets Henry and Danny write and sing a few songs Okay, so what else? This is, man, I love the Beatles. I love McCartney solo stuff, but this is probably maybe my least favorite of his solo albums. Others in the running would be Wildlife has enough goofy, weird stuff on it to make it at least interesting, even though it's not a great album. Red Rose Speedway is completely forgettable, other than the only thing that really sticks in my head on that album is My Love, unfortunately, and maybe Big Barn Bed. The rest of that album, I've had that album for years, and I'll pull it out and play it every once in a while. And 5 minutes later, I can't forget it. I can't remember it, which is one of those rare instances of Paul McCartney's natural gift for melody and catchy tunes deserting him. Even bad McCartney, you can usually remember just because he has such a gift for writing great hooks and melodies. Not so on Red Rose Speedway, and this one is in the running too because this just isn't a good album in my opinion. I know it sold a lot. I know a lot of people probably love it, and that's great. But for me personally, this is one that I rarely ever feel the urge to play. In fact, I got this when it came out on the archive edition, like I said, 2 or 3 years ago. Played it a handful of times when I first got it. Wasn't very impressed, and I think haven't played it. I played it a couple of times. I played it last night, and I played it today just to refresh my memory of it. And I don't know that I'm going to be going back to this anytime soon. So, what else? Let's just go to the song. Side one, first song. This was a big radio hit too. Let 'Em In. Um, when you watch those marching funeral processions in New Orleans playing that just laborious sort of funeral dirge, just plodding music, which is pretty cool when you see that, just because of the context it's in and all. But this thing. This is a funeral dirge, man. This is just the draggiest song. Says it is 5 minutes and 10 seconds long, according to the record label information. I think they got it wrong. I think it's more like 5 hours long. Um, the marching drum bit is cool, but that's about it for this song. That's all I can give it. I can't stand this thing. It just plods and it just goes on, and it makes even My Love sound lively by comparison. It's awful. I'm gonna piss a lot of people off. I'm gonna give this song a 1, and it's lucky to get that. I don't like it, and a lot of people do, and glad they enjoy it. Okay, so now we get into the Wings as a Democracy thing. We go to song number 2, The Note You Never Wrote, written and sung by Danny Lane. Um, Not much to say about it. It's just one of those random mid 70s blurry pastel watercolor soft rock Drek songs. It's it's you know not a lot to say about it. Um, it's not the worst thing I've heard, but it's nothing that I would ever seek out individually. I'll give it a 2.5 because even at that, it's still a little bit better than Let 'Em In, which isn't saying much. Song number 3, we're back to Paul. It's She's My Baby. It's a sweet and playful, a little bit soulful song. Nice song. Not a lot to it, but it's enjoyable enough. I give it a 3.5 though because it's like a lot of songs on this album. They're not really offensive or terrible. Well, some of them are. Let them in. Uh, most of them aren't. Most of them, there's just no substance or nothing to them. So they're just sort of there, um, but they're nothing to get excited about either. All right, number 4. Things get a little bit better, thank God. Beware My Love. It's starts off. It sounds just sort of like a generic mid 70s type rock and roll song. Nothing too exciting. Sounds like I probably was written after Band on the Run, but it sounds to me like a song that might have been a Band on the Run outtake that they ended up not using on that album. That's not the case. I'm sure he wrote it a year or two later after Band on the Run. But it has sort of a Band on the Run feel, but subpar Band on the Run music feel. Starts off pretty weak, just okay, but it does build. It gets better toward the end. It's got a really rocking piano and some good screaming vocals by Paul towards the end, so it picks up steam. First half so-so, second half's a little bit better. It's not a classic by any case, but it picks up, and it's good enough to earn a 6 in my book. All right, now we got Jimmy McCullough's first song, or he also had a song on Venus and Mars. We've got Wino Junko. Yeah, the end of this song, the drums and guitar are pretty cool, but they're not cool enough to save the song. Overall, this song, listening to this song and paying attention to this song is about as exciting as going shopping for socks. Uh, Again, I like it better than Let 'Em In, at least, so I'll give it a 1.25. We flip over to side 2 and we get to a number 1 song for Paul McCartney called Silly Love Songs. It's better than Let 'Em In, but I don't like this one either. I do love the bass. It is bouncy. It does have sort of a light disco. You can dance to it. A little bit of Al Green feel, sort of. Still a crappy song. This is supposed to be, I think, Paul's response to critics talking about how his lyrics are banal and trite after the Beatles in his solo years, and sort of a slap back at the critics. But it's still a song with banal, trite, silly, dumb lyrics, even though it does have a great bass line. And, here's a thought, Paul. Spend a few hours more on the lyrics and come up with something more like She's a Woman or Penny Lane instead of silly love, boring songs. Peace and Love, I give it a 2. Cook of the House, Linda finally gets to sing, which is what we've all been waiting for since Paul went solo. I'm sure she's not a very good singer, but she's better than Yoko Ono. I'll give her that. Neither one of them is what I would call great by any means. Not a very good song. I do have a weak spot. I do kind of like this song just because it's sort of so damn goofy that it's kind of ridiculous and fun. I like it, not like I'm going to go out of my way to play it a lot, but when I hear it, I kind of get a smile out of it. And it's fun, it's silly, but it's really not any good. I'll give it a 3. And fortunately, Linda didn't really have a solo spotlight on any further McCartney albums. Okay, what do we get? Number 3 song is another Danny Lane song, and oh boy, and I actually did. I'm pretty sure he sings "I Lie Around" on the flip side of "Live and Let Die." Pretty sure that's Danny Lane. That's a good song, if I'm thinking right. There's one song that he sang on an early 45 that I liked, and there's a song that he sings on. I think on London Town there's one that I actually really like, and I know there's one or two on Back to the Egg that he sings lead on that I really like. This one, however, is not in that category. This is an instantly forgettable song. Just Add Water. Peace and Love again. I'll give it a 2. There's just nothing there. Number 4, Must Do Something About It. Song written by Paul. And this is the archive edition, and it has, I didn't listen to the second album, but I'm pretty sure it has the original version of Paul singing lead. Story goes, though, when they were just in the studio practicing or something, Joe English, the drummer, happened to be singing the song, just walking around or whatever. Paul heard it, thought he had a good voice, and said, hey, I'm going to have him sing, and we'll re-record it with Joe singing lead vocal, which I guess works. The McCartney version, as I remember, is pretty good, and the English version is pretty good. He's not a half bad singer, and he does a good job with it. It's kind of a soft, mellow, but bouncy song. I like it. I enjoy it. I'll give that one a 5. 5th song, side 2, San Fairy Ann. Pretty short song, Johnny little song with cool horns and playing through it. Kind of upbeat, kind of fun. Not a classic, but an enjoyable song. Probably the best song on the album, I guess. I'll give it a 7. Number 6 is Warm and Beautiful. It's pretty weak album closer. It's another McCartney ballad. It's one of a billion McCartney ballads, which he's great at ballads a lot of times, but this is just this is like someone else trying to do a McCartney ballad who's not a very good songwriter. It's just a lukewarm ballad at best. It ends the album with a whimper, not a bang, unfortunately. And overall, this album, I'll be generous. I'll give it a 3. I don't think I'll be playing it for a long time to come. This album and other albums like it in the mid 70s is why this and this had to happen, and we're right around the corner, and we're happening pretty much right around this time. Thank God they did, because music by the mid to late 70s was about as in sorry a state as it had ever been. Uh, there are exceptions, of course. There was good stuff out there, but in the big picture overall, and thank God we got punk rock right around the corner to remind us of how music used to be great and some great music again. And it's kind of depressing when you think this is 76 and just 10 years earlier he was making Revolver and Paperback Writer and so forth, and now he's making Let 'Em In and Silly Love Songs. But anyway, not one of my favorites, as you can tell. I'm sure a lot of people out there love this album and are probably throwing things at the computer right now. I apologize, but I got to follow my heart and be honest with the reviews. And there's not much on there that I like on that album. And guess that's about it. Sorriest place music had ever been at that point in the 70s. And naturally, it was far worse in the 90s and the 2000s and now. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to have a Clash or a Sex Pistols show up to save the day like we did back in the mid-late 70s. Too bad.